Could American pastors be charged with hate speech for speaking out on their convictions? That's the warning from one up-and-coming superstar in the GOP. For more on that, we turn now to our chief political correspondent, David Brody. David, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Lori.
Well, David, we'll get to Senator Ted Cruz's remarks in just a second, but first, tell us about this event that you just covered. It was all about getting pastors to speak out and use their pulpits as a platform. Talk about that.
Well, that's right. About 800 pastors or so in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, to be exact, inside the Marriott for 2 days, all expenses paid by this group called the Iowa Renewal Project. And basically, their goal is to get pastors to speak out more on the issues of the day from the pulpit. And, you know, really in this country, that hasn't been happening as much lately, especially because of all of this nonprofit 501c3 issues. In other words, churches, of course, are tax exempt. And if you're tax exempt, there are a lot of pastors that are concerned that if they speak out from the pulpit, they will be, in essence, a target of the IRS. And so this conference was like, look, you need to speak your mind and we need spiritual renewal in America.
Well, you mentioned this event was held in Iowa. Why is that important?
Well, let me think. Oh, look, a primary calendar. And Iowa's first there on the docket. You know, Iowa always very important politically. It is where many candidates like Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee get their start presidentially. And folks like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul were there on hand to speak to these pastors because they are indeed thinking about running for office in 2016. So this was a place to start in South Carolina and not New Hampshire, excuse me, but South Carolina for sure will have one of these as well.
Well, Senator Ted Cruz spoke at this event, but you also sat down for an exclusive interview with him. And one thing he said is shifting away from traditional marriage could pose bigger problems for pastors down the road. Let's listen to what he said.
If you look at other nations that have gone down the road towards gay marriage, that's the next step of where it gets enforced, is it gets enforced against Christian pastors who decline to perform gay marriages, who speak out and preach biblical truths on marriage, and that has been defined elsewhere as hate speech, as inconsistent with the enlightened view of government. And I think there is no doubt that the advocates who are driving this effort in the United States want to see us end up in that same place.
David, talk a little bit about those remarks. Do a lot of conservatives share that viewpoint?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. A lot of conservatives, and not just Ted Cruz, but Rand Paul, who was also on hand, as I mentioned before. We sat down with him as well. He echoed those same types of sentiments. Look, this is a problem that many conservatives feel is only going to get worse now that gay marriage seems to start to at least have left the station. A lot of people argue about that, but at least left the train station to a degree. And so, yeah, this is going to be something to focus on for sure in the coming years.
Well, it's only 2013, but many are already saying Ted Cruz has a lot of potential as the Republican nominee for 2016. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he's got a lot of potential. Why? Because he breaks the stereotype. He breaks the mold. I thought all these Tea Party Christian folks were maybe not as smart. Well, hold on. Ted Cruz, Ivy League educated, smart as a tack. He's totally flipped the argument on its ear.
All right. Thanks as usual, David.
On its head.
Don't forget, for all of David's exclusive political coverage, you can check out his blog, The Brody File, and you can find that on cbnnews.com.